have, I could have, I would have, but I didn't. This is what Paul says in his letter to the Philippians. And I'm reading from chapter 3, verse 12, 13, 14, and some parts of 15. He says, not that I have already attained, or I am already matured or perfected, but I press on. I press on. I press on, in order that I may lay hold of that for which Christ Jesus has also laid hold of me. I press on. The truth about life, ladies and gentlemen, is that if you do not move, life will move you. Situations will move you. Events will move you. Conditions will move you. External stimuli will move you. People's opinions will move you. Worldviews, cultural perspectives will move you. Religious views will move you. Mindsets will move you. But if you determinedly decide to move, like he uses a word I love, he says, I press. Anytime you press, it means you're applying pressure against something which ordinarily will not move. So you're going against a tide. There is a barrier, there is an adversary, there is an opponent, there is an enemy. There is something that wants to block you and tell you this is where you stop, you do not go further. So he says, I am analyzing my life, I am taking stock of my life, I am checking my life, and one thing I know, I have not attained perfection. I am not where I am supposed to be. But one thing I do, I press on. There's something we call the paralysis of analysis. There are people who are so good at analyzing everything and everybody, and when they finish analyzing, they have an analysis in their hands. And the analysis paralyzes them because it's like, wow, I can't do anything. This is too big for me. Paul says, after I analyze my life and I see how I messed up in March and I was not too wise and I lost money in June, and that appointment that I had to go on time in August, I dilly-dallied, the rains fell when I went, the job was gone. I've made mistakes. I can see that. You know, there are people who today, I'm sure, in our country, bite their fingers. Why? Because there were people who had opportunities with greatness. They had access. They had a telephone number. They had a card. They could call somebody. They could email. They could go somewhere. But somehow they were flippant. They said what they shouldn't have said, where they should not have said it, in the presence of people that they had no business saying it, and the next time you made that phone call, the number was off. The next time you tried to access that person, the person was not there. Therefore, your access, your influence, the possibility of your going further was cut short. If you are in my field of work, you quickly say it's the devil, it's demonic. Sometimes you are wrong. It's just your mouth. You said what you should not have said. You know, you could be sitting with somebody and chatting, and maybe the person knows somebody in authority, and you are chatting, and I know this man, I have his phone number, and I call this woman. In fact, you know, if we chat all the time, we buy materials together. And the other person is saying, oh, really? But what you may not know is that that person is having dinner that same night with that other person, and goes for the dinner and says, do you really know this man? Do you know this woman? I just met with them this afternoon. And man, the way they are talking, you better be careful of that person. And say, is that what they said? And the next time you want to make the phone call, it's not there. Be that as it may, one, you learn the lesson of not exploiting influence, of not overrating access. But when you do that analysis and know that I blew it in October, I messed up in July, the reason I'm like this in December is because I made a blunder in January. I drank and I drank and I drank. Instead of going home, I went somewhere, and look at me 9 months later. Ladies and gentlemen, as we cross over into 2014, with all that, you must still press on. Why? Because the God that we serve, the creator of the universe, is a redemptive God. He is always merciful. He will always forgive. But you and I have our own part to play. And we must come to the point where we realize where we've messed up, what the issue is. Don't blame anybody. Don't feel we are the victims, but blame ourselves, but also pick up and say, I will press on, because there is a reason for which I got that skill, that education, that training, that blessing, and that access. He says in verse 13, we are reading from the book of Philippians in the Bible, in the New Testament, from chapter 3 of Philippians. We are now in verse 13. We started in verse 12. He says, I do not count myself to have arrived. That is so sad when people do that, because when you arrive, then you are God. No matter what you attain, what you gain, no matter the accolades, the nomenclature, the titles that are put at the end of your name or before your name, you cannot be God. None of us is. We are just finite human beings, circumscribed by time and space. We sleep at night, we make mistakes, we have blind spots, so we need people to help us. So he says, I do not count myself to have arrived. There is a lot more to learn. There is more territory to conquer. There are more things that I must do. But he says, this one thing I do. And that's what I want to leave with us for 2013 as we transition into 2014. He says, this one thing I do, I forget those things which are behind, and I reach forward to those things which are ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, the 30th of December, which is yesterday, is a cancel check. There's nothing you can do about it. The 29th of December is another cancel check. So is the 28th, the 27th, the 26th. So is January 1, 2013. 364 days. It is a cancel check. There is nothing you can do to change what has happened. It's like spilt milk. It is spilled. So Paul, as he is unctioned and graced by God, he's speaking to the Philippian Christians, and by extension he's speaking to each one of us in the Gambia that would listen. You cannot go forward looking backwards. He says, I have not arrived. I am not where I am supposed to be, but there are two things that are going to characterize my life. Or rather, he says there is one thing that I do. Number one, the things that are behind me, I forget them. Ladies and gentlemen, as we cross over into 2014, are you carrying luggage that you have no business carrying? You know, the higher you go in life, the lighter your luggage must be. And I just don't mean physical baggage, I mean mental baggage. Somebody offended you, they hurt you, they owed you money, they didn't marry you, they didn't do this, they did that, they lied about you, they reported you, they stigmatized you, they scandalized you, what they said is not true, and they did this, and they got there before you, and you were promised the scholarship, and the scholarship did not come, and your son was not given the job. Wake up. Forget the things which are past. Forget the things which are behind. If you want to pick them, you will have to turn backwards, and you can never go forwards when you look backwards. You will start going backwards. And I'm saying to you, wherever you are listening to me tonight, in country, outside of this country, forget the things which are behind. They will weigh you down, whether they be things or people. You know, most of life's problems are perspective related. Somebody saw you and they didn't like you, and they said something about you, but that's not the truth about who you are. And so it bothers you because you feel that you are running for political office, so you must be politically correct and you must try to please everybody. You cannot please everybody. People's choices are as varied and wide as the 7 billion people on the earth. So forget the things which are behind. You made that mistake. You blundered. Forget. And he says, what I do, I reach forward to the things which are ahead. Let me put it this way. There is more to be gained than what is lost. I repeat, there is more to be gained than what is lost. And God, in his infinite mercy to you and to me, not because we are better off than the people who have died in 2013, or the people who between now and 12 midnight will not be with us second in January 2014, but in his goodness and his mercy, this breath that he gave us, he loaned us, which he will collect from us, use it for something positive. Look forward, look upwards, look towards an anticipated goal. Write some expectations, write some objectives, write some goals, write some desires for 2014. Some of them that you may write may be points of wisdom so you do not fall into the 2013 trap. But what are you going to do? You are where you are. You're already where you are. So he is saying here,